Ladies and gentlemen, record geeks, retired plate spinners, and millennials who want to impress their parents with their record collections. Welcome to the Rhino Podcast, brought to you by Rhino Records. Get ready for new releases, deep tracks, and conversations with your favorite artists and bands, and balloons for the kiddies. And now, your hosts with the most, Rich Mahan and Dennis the Menace.
On this episode of the Rhino Podcast, we talk with the Replacements' Tommy Stinson, along with producers Bob Mayer and Jason Jones about the band's new box set, Dead Man's Pop.
She don't wear no pants and she don't wear no tie. Always on the ball, she's always on stride. Shut a lovely out until you get to fly. You ain't nothing but a waitress in the sky. You ain't nothing but a waitress in the sky.
Hey, Dennis.
Hey, Rich. What are you up to?
I was about to ask you what you are up to.
What do you think I've got on my laptop screen right now?
Knowing you, it's rhino.com.
You betcha.
Why are you at rhino.com?
Why?
Tell us.
Well, because it has got everything that anybody who listens to this podcast could want. It's the place to go. In fact, you're going to tell me what I should look for.
One of my favorite things that you can do is sign up for the Album of the Day email. Rhino sends you a new album every day. It has a short essay laying out why you should listen to this album, why it's worth your time. There's links to listen on your favorite streaming platform. And then right there on that same page, there's all kinds of other albums of the day that you can check out. It's a great way to find something new to listen to. If you're like, I'm at the gym today, I need something new to listen to. What do? Bam, album of the day, done deal. And then, of course, we have all the new releases coming up. It's fall. There are so many cool new releases coming out on Rhino and Rhino.com. All you rap fans out there, the Notorious B.I.G. Ready to Die 25th Anniversary 7-inch vinyl box set. It's limited edition. You got to go grab it before it disappears. How about all you rockers? We got the White Snake Slip of the Tongue Deluxe Edition, which includes, for a limited time only, the Donington lithograph. You're going to want to grab that one. The Doors Soft Parade, 50th Anniversary Deluxe Edition. There's so much cool stuff coming. Speaking of cool stuff coming, Dennis, tell people who's on the podcast today.
Okay, get ready, boys and girls. It's the one and only Tommy Stinson. This is the first of a two-parter on the Replacements. And I will just tell you a little clue that my first question, his response to it involves a bodily part.
Well, you know, if you've seen any of the classic interviews that the guys did, you never know what you're going to get. You never know what they're going to throw at you. I can't wait to hear this conversation you have with him. But of course, the reason that Tommy is spending time with us on the Rhino Podcast is because of the new Replacements release, Dead Man's Pop. It's a 4-CD, 1 LP deluxe edition set. And it's based around the Don't Tell a Soul release. It ultimately, back when it was released, became the group's best-selling album. But they were unsatisfied with the sound of the record. They didn't really like the mixes. So what Dead Man's Pop does is they've gone back in and created a 4-CD, 1 LP set that remixes the album as the band originally intended it to sound. So all you Replacements fans that are kind of like, that record, I don't know. It's like, I didn't really dig it as much. You're going to dig it now because it's exactly the way the band wanted it to be. There's all kinds of unreleased tracks and a classic concert from 1989. Also on the podcast today are Bob Mayer, author of the Replacements biography Trouble Boys, and Jason Jones from Rhino A&R, co-producers of Dead Man's Pop.
Ain't much to look at, so close your eyes, here we go. Playing at the talent show. Playing at the talent show. Come along, here we go. Playing at the talent show. Hop right, here we go. Playing at the talent show.
Tommy Stinson, welcome to the Rhino Podcast.
Thank you. Well, what do you got for me? Tell me. What are you thinking, Palio?
I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we're here to talk about that Dead Man's Pop box set with
Who
a ton
came
of
up with the
goodies.
name of that, by the way?
That was
Bob Merritt?
I don't know.
No. That
Bob,
was,
did you come up with
no,
that?
that was Paul's original idea. That was the original album title it was supposed to be. And in fact, it was reported as such back in Spin and a couple magazines in the day.
Wow.
If you read that sort of shit.
If you read that.
The things you learn when you watch TV.
But, he also told me, you told me or he told me that there was a couple of different names for that. It was, at one point, you're going to call it Festical, which was Festival and Testicle. But the other thing, the other album name that he told me was like, you guys were hanging with the Young Fresh Fellows a lot, and you guys like Tad in the band.
Yeah.
So you're going to call the album Tit for Tad.
Oh, jeez.
But cooler heads prevailed, I guess.
Jeez.
I could tell I'm never going to get to any questions here.
You're gonna
Hey,
get nothing.
That's
You
all
get
right,
nothing.
man.
You get
I don't
nothing,
stand a
pal.
chance.
Fucking nothing.
All right. So it was the end of the 80s. It was 88. So it wasn't quite the end. And, no idea what the 90s were going to bring us. Do you remember by any chance what you and the gang were thinking about going in to recording this record? Do you remember anything at all?
No, that was back in the 1900s. No. I mean, we were going to go make a record like we made all the previous records. And the only differentiating bit is that we started that record in Woodstock with Tony Berg. And
Yeah, we're going to get to Bearsville. That's for sure.
And what they did, which was, I think it was a good plan in someone's mind, but went south real quick, was putting the Replacements in little huts in the middle of Woodstock and have us play in a dry county. Kind of wasn't really conducive.
Counterproductive.
Yeah, and I think the obvious is kind of written on the wall there. But as I say this, I mean, when you're playing Dodge Knife, in a cabin in Woodstock, New York, things tend to get a little screwed up quick, and
As opposed to your other recording sessions.
exactly. Well, we're city boys, so
Well, yes.
putting us in the country not so smart.
I mean, up to that point,
No.
basically you'd done all the records in Minneapolis and then had gone and done Pleased to Meet Me in Memphis. So this was, Memphis at least was kind of
It's
a city. Right?
Yeah.
You know, Bob.
There's some stuff going on there. Yeah.
Kind of a city.
There were things going on there, and I've made 2 records in Memphis. We'll talk about that later. But
Yes.
no, so I mean, it got pretty goofed up quick. I think we lasted all of about 3 weeks.
Not
2
even
weeks.
that.
Not even
No,
2
not
weeks.
even that.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob filling in the facts.
No, it was rough, and if you really have any insight into the West Coast and can call James Hetfield, he'll give you the 411 on that completely, because he likes to tell the story actually a little bit whenever he sees me. It's kind of a funny bit. He's a good gent. I like him a whole lot, but. We were making record at the same time in that Woodstock Bearsville studio. We were making this one, and I don't remember what name of the record that Metallica.
They were making Injustice for All.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they were totally freaked out by you guys.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, they saw us, throw gallon bottles of liquor through the windows of the studio and freak out in the communal lodge, where everyone kind of got together and had food and stuff like that. It was funny watching him tell Axl Rose that story once. He was like, this guy.
You know that I made a mistake. You know that I stand face to face, and now I gotta take it back to back. Oh, back to back.
This is said to be the album the band made and intended to release. So, and the sound wasn't the way that you and Paul and the gang intended. So I'm just going to get right to it. Who got in the way and why?
Oh, come on, man. Really? I got to answer that one.
in your own inimitable way.
You're gonna go right for the balls, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Oh, yes, I am.
Let me get my cup. So the idea was, I think, was just sort of, we'd made some records and we got into this particular point in our career where it's like, now we got to have a radio smash at this point. That was kind of the, I don't know, the ne'er-do-well is trying to, test fate, as you will. I don't think it made a whole lot of sense to any of us because we never could play the game. And so here's us, this record, when we made it, started with Tony Berg, which I didn't get. He actually ended up making a great record with, Ted Hawkins years later that I really respected. But I think in general, this was a record that we made like the other ones, but suddenly someone put it, and I think more in Paul's ear than mine, or Chris's, or even Slim's. And it's like, this has to be the thing. So there's pressure and stuff like that. I don't really understand why that happened, actually. Now that Bob has played me the mixes of the Matt Wallace mixes, I'm like, why the hell did we ever go down this road? But, the Lord Alge Brothers had they sort of had the monopoly on the radio at that point.
Yep,
and so that was everyone's going, get them to do it. That'll be a hit. Blah, 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 blah. And, it was superfluous. I mean, it didn't need to happen. I mean, I think when you hear the Matt Wallace mixes, and which were rough mixes at the get-go, those were more what we were about. Most of the records we made, I mean, they kept giving us budgets to make them. Warner Brothers did anyway, and Sire or whatever. We still were our best. We made a record in like a couple days, and let alone spend a week or 2 weeks or spend a fucking month in fucking L.A. You do that, and you fucking screw the pooch a bit on that. And that's kind of what happened.
Anywhere is better than, anywhere is better than, anywhere is better than, anywhere is better than here.
This record, in a way, too, like the way the songs came together, were maybe different than any other record, because I think in the interim, Paul had gotten a real like 4-track and a drum machine, and so the songs, maybe until you got to Bearsville, weren't as worked out as a band.
He got a copy of Joshua Tree? What?
Oh boy. Wow.
Hold on. I'm kidding.
No, but it's true, because normally,
Wow.
up to that point, you guys would have to at least like work up the song.
Yeah, because it wasn't the only kind of like band written song was Darlin' one.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of written during the Please Meet Me time period. Like, yeah.
No, I think, and to be fair, I mean, I think in a lot of ways Paul's songwriting, advanced and became more advanced as him as a songwriter. To be succinct about this, him being a songwriter, I think kind of he became better as a songwriter than we became as a band in a lot of ways. And I bet if he were sitting right here right now, he'd probably say the same thing. Especially after that last comment I made. But really, I think that, like, there's always been a bit of a rub with the Replacements a little bit. We're always, fun and, did our thing, and we had our bits and our whole, our mystique or whatever you want to call it. I think the one thing that always sort of set us apart from a lot of other bands and stuff is that Paul's a great songwriter. And as a songwriter, I think he always, was looking ahead. You could actually look up the small faces and, check out the same thing with Steve Marriott. I mean, he got kind of tired of the small faces when he just felt like he wasn't, like they weren't keeping up the where he was going with things. And I think that kind of happened with the Replacements. And I think that kind of happened with this record in a way. I don't know that I think the songs are the pinnacle of our career. I think All Shook Down, I think the songs were, that record, hands down to me, is like drop dead gorgeous kind of thing. And this was leading up to that.
Yeah.
And so if you listen to the songs and think about where that's going, Paul's got a drum machine in his basement. He's living in South Minneapolis with, his wife at the time and all this is going on. Is, getting into the place of making that last record, which was, I think, my favorite. So.
By the million, but Alex should come around to have me love. Yeah, but that's all. I'm in love. I can't be wrong. I never travel far without a little picture. Woo!
Well, actually, I want to jump in for a second. I think
please.
I think that part of the reason why the Chris Lord Alge's production was thrown on it was the way that Warner was kind of set up at the time, where Reprise was the alternative division, which you guys were kind of thrown into, and they actually had a radio support system. So if they were going to try to push you guys to radio, then you kind of had to sit within what Reprise
They've been pushing
wanted.
us since Tim.
Well, yeah, no, I know, but it's
Just
like
ain't been pushing hard enough, apparently.
well, yeah, but I think that was part of the reason why it kind of moved in the direction that it ended
That
up
actually
going
is
into.
that is true because it was right around that time that they reactivated Reprise. So
Yeah.
they're like, we'll set up this like specific for these cutting edge bands, but we still need to get them on the radio.
Yeah.
Cutting
So-
edge bands. I mean, Sire had already had like the Pretenders,
Right.
and go down the laundry list of bands that were on
Right.
Sire at that point. It's like, I guess we were not quite as polished as Chrissy Hind.
'Cause they're blind. They hold you too close to the light. And I see what they only might if they learn. But they're letting you burn 'cause they're blind.
This band that we're talking about has a very interesting reputation with recording tape, and you know where I'm going here. So we're all kind of sitting here because these Ampex 456s ended up in the right place. Would that be true?
You know what? There's a whole lot of shenanigans with that whole story, but
Yeah, that's where we're trying to go here. So tell me about the non-shenanigans.
the non-shenanigans. Well, I have all the tapes in my basement. Warner Brothers doesn't actually have them anymore.
Yeah, you have
I
everything.
them in my basement.
Yeah.
And they smell.
True.
They smell like formaldehyde.
When I talked to Slim, though, he told me before I knew that he had stashed these tapes in his basement, he was telling the story of like the famous story in '87 where you guys, took the tapes
water.
from Twin Tone and threw them in the river. And at the time, Slim said that never made any sense to me. I was like, if you're going to steal them, at least just steal them and hide them in the basement. Of course, when he was telling me that, I didn't know that there were these
That he
tapes
had his
like
own
a few
tapes.
feet
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
So Slim's a smart man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was smarter than the rest of us, I suppose.
We'll inherit the earth, but we don't want it. It's been ours since birth, and what you doing of it? We'll inherit the earth, but we don't want it. Laying claim at birth, what you doing of it?
One Tom Waits, I have a question for you. Did you drink
No.
first and go to the studio, or did you go to the studio and drink first?
You guys went to
Well,
dinner first.
I
didn't
think you went to the Formosa or something.
We went to the Formosa and we had snacks.
Snacks?
And snacks. And
Light- light
they might have
refreshments?
been they might have been more like a smoothie than actual hard food object.
Okay.
But
A smoothie.
I don't
like a
wanna-
margarita?
I'll be honest with you. I don't want to get too far into that either, because I'll tell you what. It was a very sweet moment in my memory about all of that. And Kathleen, his wife, was there and stuff, and she kind of left him with us, and that's when things got kind of interesting in a funny way. And he had been kind of in and off or whatever, I think, at that time. And when she left, we put on the the Mai Tais, I should say. And he was telling stories. He was hanging out with us. It was a great, great moment. And musically speaking, it took all of about a minute for Kathleen to leave and us to go back to the studio and just start putting in guitars and fucking around. And again, I have not heard my part in this scenario of replacements with Tom Waits. I do remember a sermon about the heathen will follow the lizard and this whole thing.
That's on Date to Church, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was pretty rare.
Do you remember the?
It was pretty.
Remember the Billy Swan cover? I Can Help.
Yeah, there's a version of I Can
You
Help
guys,
with
you guys kept dropping into I Can Help.
With everything you got me, everything you real. Baby, let me tell you just about the way that I feel. I can help. I'm a man and I can help. Oh, baby, I got two strong arms. I can help.
I hear that.
Why?
That and what is that? Hey Lottie. You guys kept going into that too, which is wonderful. And that did not make the box set because I think,
No, but Low Down Monkey Blues.
yeah, No
did.
Down Monkey Blues does. Yeah,
Tired of waiting and I'm falling down. I'm a mean monkey and I'm coming down. I'll be waiting, baby, for you. Just a mean old monkey. I do anything you say I should do.
We were lucky enough to meet some of our favorite, musicians and stuff like that along the way. Whether it's Keith Richards or Terry Reid or Tom Waits or whatever, we've been blessed with that, and that's a great thing. And lucky. I mean, I sat next to David Bowie on a couch at the International Rock and Roll Awards ceremony they did one year. He just sincerely asked me questions about, how you doing? How's the tour going? How you doing? And he was very sincere, and I was like, great. But all that stuff aside, the Tom Waits session was like, meeting someone you've only heard of before. I had no idea what he even looked like, but I'd known, Martha and some of the songs that he'd written that I really loved a whole lot, and hanging out with them and his whole Tom Waitness. It's like, holy shit, man, this is a fucking heavy, and this is the guy. This is the guy, and suddenly here we are with guitars on, and we're just hanging out playing. It was kind of a funny, in my mind, I remember the colors and the moment of that night. I almost wish, to be honest with you, that the audio of that would have been kept in a vault, because only for this one reason. And I say this, Bob, sincerely, is that it was so special to me.
Right.
It was like one of those moments, where you're going like, man, this is, there's a fucking real heavy dude right there, and I'm sitting right next to him. We're playing guitar, we're goofing off, and we're having laughs, and we're all a bit in the cups and all that. It was great. It's one of those things you kind of almost want to preserve and keep to yourself in a way, and that's all I'm saying.
Well, I ain't very good, but I get practice by myself. Forgot my one line, but I just said what I felt. Hey, minor. If only he was lonely. If only I was lonely. If only I was lonely. I'd go home with you.
there's some really special moments within there. Like I totally understand the sincerity of it's a really special, close to the chest kind of moment.
Yeah.
But within there, for me, just as Bob and myself listening to this material, one of the things that really struck me was whenever you guys are running through We Know the Night multiple times. And to hear Tom say to Paul and yourself, I really love that song. And I really love what you guys are doing. That was, for me as a fan,
Yeah, it's pretty cool fly on the wall.
that is
kinda
a
thing.
total fly on the wall. You can. That's worth the price of admission alone.
We don't know the prime red and red. Funny chord. And we don't know the pain of a broken day. We don't know what's wrong or what's right. We know the night.
The thing that's different about this record too is, you did Pleased to Meet Me as a 3-piece, and this is the first record with Slim.
Yeah.
And obviously, the first half of the band was you guys and your brother, and then you did this kind of one record, Pleased to Meet Me, just sort of as a trio, and then Slim kind of came in. And when you listen to, just listening in the car, you were saying, again, it was Darling One or whatever. Slim had a kind of distinct thing that was, different. So
He did. So what Slim brought to the table, which was funny in a particular way. So my brother was more of a rough and tumble guitar player. He could just rip the balls off that thing and was great at it. And Slim was more of a melodic kind of guy, and he also made his own pedals, his own, chorus pedals and things like this, right? And so Paul gave him a lot of, space to just try and, take, put himself in the mix here and to so to speak. But also I think Paul appreciated and respected Slim a whole lot in a way that as a guitar player and a songwriter and stuff, where I think that all came into play on this record, and that's where you get kind of you can in my world you can feel this record coming together in a way, and I hate to say it, leading up to All Shook Down. This is like this stepping stone to that.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Banished forever from your sacred nest, on your snow white breast, I feel a still unrest. I said, hey, darling one, your time is coming. Hey, darling one.
It's cool to hear him play because he kind of changes just the sort of dimensions of the band just because he plays, he's playing with a thumb pick. He does his own electronics. It's like the whole atmospherics of the way Slim played, and
Totally.
Slim and Paul played differently than Paul and Bob played, off each other. So it's like a kind of, I don't know, it just changes sort of what the sound is like too. And maybe that's part of why the record sounds different, the last two.
Totally. And there's another part to that too. It's that, there's a sort of respect for Slim that I think Paul had, in Slim's way. Slim took a beating, mind you, playing with us, but Paul, I think Paul really respected his guitar playing abilities and his melodic abilities and things like that. And I think those were important. I think completely important, and I think that. They can't be understated. And this record, this is when they're put to the test a little bit,
Right.
Yeah.
Paul always said it was like when Slim joined the band, it would have been like, instead of like if the Stones got Mick Taylor, as if they would have got like Carl Perkins, in 1969.
Yeah.
It's like, because he was like 10 years older than you guys,
Yep.
or even older than that than you, and it's sort of like just the whole different kind of vibe. But that's why I think the last couple records sound,
That's
different.
pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's astute of him.
Tell you questions, and they're asking me why. Tell you questions, and they're asking me why. And they're asking me
Couple of covers: Goodbye to Jane, Born to Lose, Heartbreakers, Slade. A really good rock band doesn't become a cover band. They take it and they make it their own. And that's what I hear in this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we were all kids of the '70s and the glam rock and all that stuff. All of us, even though I'm 7 years younger than my brother and Paul. We were all about that. There's no mistaking that, like, you know, our roots are pretty well healed and all that. So the one thing that Warner Brothers Rhino hasn't put out, and I hope to God doesn't get put out again, I'll tell you right now, is when the shit hits the fans.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
So
no.
that is all about us being kids of the 70s and hearing a song, knowing a song in the back of our head, and knowing kind of roughly where to play it without really knowing, like, the chord charts, which I just got asked for. Do you have the chord charts for a 3-chord song? I can't even go down this road right now. But you know, kids of the 70s that like the glam rock stuff, Sweet and all that stuff. It was a whole thing, and we could shit it's the fans. Please don't put that fucker out. But that's the culmination of where we come from, basically.
Well, goodbye to Jane, goodbye to Jane. She's a boots, get your fancies, don't care. Goodbye to Jane, goodbye to Jane. Bitch, you boo when you're cool, but I care. She's a queen, see what I mean? She's a queen, see what I mean? She's a queen, and I know she's alright, alright, alright.
And I think even like going back to like the common ground way back when the band was starting for Paul and Bob, like they had different tastes in a lot of ways, but where they kind of met was Slade and Sweet and that kind of era of stuff. So it was like kind of the foundation of the band.
Yeah, and then you got Chris Mars bringing in the Sex Pistols
Right.
when Paul kind of joined the band and stuff as well. There's a whole lot of back history that's in your book, but that I didn't tell you about, and that other yeah, but there's a lot of synergy that happens in all that is part of how we became a band and stuff like that, and it's important. It's important and it's great, and the book totally kind of captures most of that, unless you were in the room. And saw my brother show me how to fucking play Roundabout, the second song I ever learned how to play on bass, mind you.
No shit, seriously?
Hello, kids, try to learn that one as your second fucking song on the fucking bass. Try that one. Give it a shot, will you?
Living in a jungle, it ain't so hard. Living in the city, baby, how tired your heart. Born to lose, born to lose, yeah. Born to lose, baby, I'm born to lose. Baby, I'm born to lose.
There are 2 discs of the complete Milwaukee live show. Do you remember it for any reason?
No.
It was actually right after the International Rock Awards. It was
Yeah.
like maybe 2 days after. So it was a show you did.
Because
Yeah.
you guys are totally ripping on it. During
Yeah.
you guys are totally.
I mean,
ripping
it's quite the show.
I think you actually say, "Did you see that fucking
TV show.
shitty TV show we were on?"
I don't remember
Is that why you're
day,
here?
but I hope the check's in the fucking mail.
That's
Well,
good.
I'll tell you one thing about that show that I captured when I was listening to it way too loud. On Here Comes a Regular, you actually hear the audience singing along. So do you ever think about how reverent the 203,000 fans you've got on that F-Book thing are? I mean, not bad for an indie band.
Well, and you're talking to someone who loves that song a whole lot. So
Yes.
it's very important to me. There's a lot of songs that we've done that, yeah, you're gonna, I'm not gonna sit here and fucking get my boo-hoo on right now, but there are a lot of songs. I've always admired Paul. I've always looked up to him as a brother in a way, and all that. But there are songs that are pretty fucking heavy, that are truly heavy songs, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
And you have to, in my position, you have to think about the content and where they come from and what that's about and where that's, where that sits and resonates, and some more people should hear that song.
Everybody wants to hear. You know your name out loud and
things we were listening, kind of like we were talking heavy songs, was like Rock and Roll Ghost. We were listening to the mix of that, and it's like that's like that's the thing about I think why the band like works on a lot of levels is like you could do the covers, punk covers, but you could also do Here Comes the Regular and Rock and Roll Ghost or whatever, and it was like this,
Well, we were, for all practical purposes, we were kind of a bipolar band. We could go from fucking full on, throwing it out there to like, okay, pull it back and then capture a moment. I mean, there's I'll tell you a weird story, quick little anecdote. I'll keep it short. Short. There was a time we were opening it for Tom Petty, and I can't remember what city it was, and we did Whipping Post. And Paul sang the balls off of it. It was ripping, and we just wung it. We just wung it. It was fucking fantastic. I just remember walking away going, we actually just played that fucking song? and for whatever reason, he was going for it, and his fucking voice was like ripping on it. It was like, time to the ripping part. It's a whole thing. It's like, it was great. Those are the things that I always loved about my band, The Replacements.
We don't know until we're gone. There's no one here to raise a toast. I look into the mirror and I see a rock and roll ghost. A rock and roll ghost.
The band is genre-proof. I mean, people, when you talk about the Mats, people are like, well, what kind of band were they? And I'm like, they were a rock and roll band. So, I mean, what do you do when people try to figure it out?
Tell them to fuck off.
Yeah, for real.
What else are you going to do? I mean, make up a new genre of like, well, no, we're not rock and roll. We're not fucking roll. We're not Americana fucking rock and roll. We're not
indie
disco fucking rock and roll. You can't make up a new, idea for what it is. We just were what we were.
Whenever I would describe The Replacements to any inquiring minds who wanted to know, I would say they were rippers. They either want to rip your face off
That's a good one.
Or rip your heart out. And I feel like that's pretty succinct.
You just don't want to do that with people that have guitars in their hands because they're heavy and they can actually bust your head open. That's the problem with that.
It's too late to turn back. Here we go. Portland. Oh no. Yeah. It's too late to turn back. Here we go.
Aching to Be, should it have been a bigger hit? Was radio ready for it at the time?
No. No, radio was not ready for a fucking sensitive, pretty song that's, sort of a mid-tempo kind of fucking vibe. No, not at all. Great song.
It's just kinda like a poet who finds it hard to speak. The poems come so slowly, like the colors down her cheek. She opens her mouth to speak it. What comes out to mystery. Thought about, not understood. She's aching.
Number 51 on the Billboard Hot 100, I'll Be You. Closest thing to a hit for the band?
Yeah, think about the lyrics on that one. Think about the melody and the whole thing.
Oh, it's got hooks for days.
Hooks for days. Fucking days.
Hooks for days.
Look at what was also.
That's my point.
Look at what was being spun at that same time on the fucking Billboard Top 100. Just saying.
And I could purge my soul perhaps for the imminent collapse. Oh yeah, I'll tell you what we could do. You be me for a while, I'll be you.
When you listen to this whole thing, you're going to say, like I did, wow, we were pretty good. We were decent. What does this all add up to? Because this is a repurposed. This is the record that supposedly, tapes are stolen, and there's all this stuff here. I mean, there's 60 friggin' tracks. That's a lot.
You wait till the next one.
Yeah. Also, more than decent, fucking amazing.
Bob Mary, you're still on the hook. Fuck.
Next one.
I tell you what, to be really honest and frank about this stuff, I respect my legacy. I've got a 29-year-old daughter that wants to, and she's a great singer, great songwriter, and a whole nother genre, she's a millennial, and all that, and so I have to step back a little bit from this stuff a little bit, and let her know I'm maybe 1 in a million, maybe 1 in 5 million. That's been as lucky as I've been to have done this. We whether you're ever gonna hear that from fucking Paul or my brother's dad, rest his soul, but or Chris Mars. The reality is we've been lucky enough to have been here and done this, and we did a thing. And I'll take it a step further. Minneapolis was a particular thing back then. That was a scene that I have never seen before or after. And I lived in L.A., from '93 on till 2008. It's a big deal. It's a big deal to me. It means a lot to me, and I respect it completely and wholly. And I would just hope that the kids that want to learn how to play music and stuff like that, they would check out that moment in time, kind of like the hardcore moment in time in L.A. where there was X and Black Flag and all those. That was a moment in time as well. We were around in that scene when we started, and we've just been lucky enough to have done all that we've done, and while we're talking about this goddamn record right now, and appreciating it. And I tell you what, I appreciate my legacy like nobody in the band. You got Chris does his thing, Paul does his thing. Anytime I got an interview with someone or I got to talk to someone, I'm going to tell you right out of the gate, I appreciate and respect where I came from.
We inherit the earth, but we don't want it. Laying claim at birth, when the wind cries for help and you're done dying on it. We'll inherit the earth, but we don't want it. What will it be worth when you're still on it?
Well, all you Replacements fans are definitely going to want to check out Dead Man's Pop. It's the 4-CD, 1 LP deluxe edition set. It is out now. If you get one of the earlier versions, there's a cassette release that's included with it. Very cool stuff from the Replacements. And all of you fans who are disappointed with the way that Don't Tell Us Soul sounded when it originally came out, you're going to love it now. It's the way the band originally intended the album to sound. Tack on all the bonus material and the live show, and you can't lose. Thanks very much for tuning in. Don't forget to listen and subscribe on iTunes so you don't miss the next Rhino Podcast.